Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Winner Is by Charise Mericle Harper, narrated by Karissa Vacker. Friday. Week 3 begins. Chapter 1. Caroline turned away from the studio door and studied Ray's face. Friends? To the end! They finished the sentence together. After 2 tough weeks of slicing and dicing, they were the only ones left. This was it. Now it was the battle to see who would be the winner. Shh. Chef Nancy put a finger to her lips. Ray rubbed her palms against her shirt. In just a few seconds, the door would open and it would begin all over again. Ray counted the days on her fingers and then wiped her hands on her skirt. In 7 days, one of them would be the winner, the next best junior chef. And the other, she didn't want to think about that. She studied the back of Caroline's head. Was she nervous about winning or, worse, losing? The producer's voice interrupted her thoughts.
Booms! Lights! Cameras! Rolling!
And then the announcer began. Welcome to the next best junior chef. This is week 3, our final week of competition. After Thursday's elimination round, we'll have a winner for the next best junior chef. We have 2 remaining talented junior chefs who have certainly earned the right to be here, but are they ready for what lies ahead? This week's challenges will test their culinary knowledge, ingenuity, and maybe even the bonds of their friendship. It's time to jump from the frying pan into the fire. Will they sizzle or fizzle? We can't wait to find out. So without further delay, let's bring out our final contestants. Chef Nancy tapped Caroline's shoulder. Caroline walked confidently to the front of the studio, pacing herself to match the announcer's tempo. Congratulations, Caroline, and welcome to this exciting final week of competition. Caroline is 11 years old and from Chicago, Illinois. She worked some fast food magic last week, elevating a hot dog to an hot dog. She has continually impressed the judges with her creativity and culinary talent. Chef Nancy held the door for Ray. Congratulations, Ray, and welcome to the final week of competition. Ray blinked twice, focused on the front, and started down the ramp. The energy of the room quickly changed her nervousness into excitement. Ray is 11 years old and from Port Chester, New York. Last week, she won unanimous praise for perfecting a cookie classic and served up a winning dish in the elimination round. This young chef is a master of both pleasing the palate and presentation. Ray stood next to Caroline in front of the 3 judges. Our esteemed judges include Chef Vera Porter of the famous Porter Farm restaurant, the renowned pastry chef Amy Copley, and Chef Gary Lee, restaurant proprietor and host of the award-winning show Adventures in Cooking. The judges will be watching our competitors throughout the week, and everything that happens along the way will be taken into consideration when we get to the final elimination round. In addition to choosing a winner, the judges will have to dismiss one of our junior chefs and ask them to hang up their apron. This decision will be based on performance, the taste and presentation of their dishes, and their overall creative vision. Caroline reached for Ray's hand, then gave it a squeeze and held on. Ray squeezed back. Our junior chefs are mentored by Chef Nancy Patel, the 2013 recipient of the Golden Spoon Award. The winner of the next best junior chef will receive 2 life-changing prizes, a custom food truck and a guest spot on Adventures in Cooking when it begins filming this summer in Italy. Chef Gary stepped to the center of the room.
Wow, this is it!
He nodded to each of the junior chefs.
Congratulations, you've made it.
They smiled back. He shook his head.
I have to be honest, this is not going to be an easy week, but,
he raised a finger,
it will be exciting. We have twists, turns, and lots of surprises. You will not be disappointed. As in previous weeks, there is a theme, and we're especially excited about this one. Our theme for the week is innovation, so we'll want to see some fresh new ideas. Are you ready to battle it out and flex your creative muscles?
Yes, Chef.
And you're still friends?
He pointed to their joined hands.
Remarkable. Well, That calls for a celebration. Let's have a toast." He motioned to an assistant standing at the side of the studio. "Bring out the champagne."
Chapter 2. Champagne? Ray looked worried, Caroline confused. They weren't old enough to drink champagne. Chef Amy laughed. "Don't worry, it's not champagne. We have something even more special. Any guesses?"
"Sparkling apple juice. Ginger ale?"
A stagehand pushed a rolling cart with 6 fancy glasses to the front of the room. Caroline frowned. It definitely wasn't ginger ale. Chef Amy handed out the glasses. "Chef Porter has prepared one of her favorite chilled soups for this occasion, and she'll lead us in the toast." Ray studied the glass. The soup was light green with one perfectly cut square crouton floating on top. Chef Porter raised her glass.
"Congratulations to you both, and may our final week be one of discoveries."
Chef Gary emptied his glass in one gulp, chewed up the crouton, then nodded to Chef Porter.
"Thank you, Chef, for that refreshing start to the week."
He turned back to the junior chefs, a smile on his face.
"Are you ready for fun?"
They nodded. Caroline winced and forced herself to swallow. The soup tasted like soap. That meant only one thing: cilantro. 2 weeks ago, Chef Nancy had told the junior chefs about the gene that makes cilantro taste like soap. People are just born with it. They can't help it. Caroline was one of those people. Chef Gary clapped his hands.
"Great! Glad to hear it, because the fun starts now. Right now."
"What?" Ray covered her mouth, but it was too late. Everyone had heard. Chef Gary wagged his finger.
"See, I told you there'd be surprises. Your first challenge is to create a fun, easy dish composed of the flavors you just tasted in this soup. Don't worry, there'll be more samples at your workstations, so you can try it again."
Caroline suppressed a groan. More soup equaled more soap.
"And," Chef Gary pointed a finger, "please keep a list of every ingredient you use. We'll need that list when you come to the table at the end of the challenge. You'll have a total of 30 minutes for this challenge. 5 minutes at your workstations for a pantry list, 5 minutes in the pantry, and then 20 minutes to prepare your final creation."
He raised his hand.
"Your time starts now. Go!"
Caroline and Ray raced off to their workstations. One was smiling, the other was not. Caroline.
"This challenge is not going to be easy. I have this gene thing that makes cilantro taste like soap. I can't help it. I was just born that way. I'm going to have to force myself to drink it and see if I can figure out any of the other flavors. Just by the color and the texture, I'm guessing the main ingredient is avocado. I can't believe we are starting the competition so soon, and I'm already at a disadvantage."
Ray.
"The fast start was a real surprise, but I'm ready for it. I actually really liked the soup. Cilantro was one of my favorite flavors, so that was easy to pick out. Plus, the flavor profile was a little spicy, so I'm guessing there is some kind of pepper in there too. It's tricky with a blended soup. You can't see the ingredients. But we get to taste it again, so that's going to be helpful. Poor Caroline. She is not going to like this challenge, and I don't blame her. Who wants to drink a mouthful of soap?"
Chapter 3. Ray took a sip of soup and then quickly added corn and lime juice to her list. Figuring out the ingredients was easier than she thought it would be. She wiggled her tongue. Thank you, tongue. She was lucky. She had a sophisticated palate. The roasted corn was a good catch. There was only a hint of the charred, smoky flavor, but she'd caught it. She looked over the ingredient on her list. Now came the fun part, deciding what to make. Caroline wasn't so lucky. Spicy soap was the best she could do. The soap-like cilantro taste overpowered everything. She'd tried, but after 3 mouthfuls, she was done. She sighed and looked for visual cues instead. The pale green color meant the avocado was mixed with other ingredients. Probably vegetable broth and something white. She scribbled down a guess. Sour cream.
Time!
Chef Gary stood at the front of the room. A second later, he shouted again.
Pantry run!
Janet and Mike followed Caroline and Ray to the pantry with their cameras. They filmed Ray grabbing 2 ears of corn, limes, serrano chilies, and garlic, and then closed in for a close-up of Caroline at the spice wall. She frowned, hesitated, and then added smoked paprika, pepper, celery salt, cumin, salt, and ancho chili pepper to her basket. She was shopping blind. No recipe, no idea what to make. Her only plan was to grab everything she might need and decide later.
Workstations! Cut!
The cameras turned off. Caroline was grateful for the extra time. Since she couldn't figure out all the ingredients, she'd have to wow the judges in a different way. Her presentation on the plate would have to be amazing. Chef Nancy came by to visit as the junior chefs unpacked their groceries. Sometimes she offered suggestions, but mostly she provided reassurance. She tried not to look worried, but she knew about Caroline's trouble with cilantro. How is it going? Caroline held up a perfectly ripe avocado.
I have a plan. Baked avocados in the half shell.
Ooh, intriguing.
And delicious.
Ray saw Chef Nancy approaching and waved her over.
I was inspired by the crouton, so I'm going to make avocado toast and incorporate all the flavors of the soup.
Chef Nancy raised her arms. I give up. You two don't need me. She wiped away a pretend tear and then touched her heart. I'm so proud of both of you. The junior chefs grinned, first at Chef Nancy, then each other. It was a perfect start to the competition.
Rolling!
Chef Amy stood in the center of the room with her arm in the air.
Let's get cooking!
Do the corn first, Ray talked to herself as she worked. She shucked the corn and then rubbed it with olive oil. Grilling on the stove was harder than grilling on a barbecue. The flame was closer. Ouch! She pulled the corn off the gas burner, grabbed some tongs, and slowly rotated the ear above the flame. This wasn't the best use of her time, but she had no choice. Charred and burned are very different flavors. Caroline did the math in her head. 20 minutes minus 12 minutes in the oven meant there were only 8 minutes left, and that needed to be split up between prepping and plating. She had to rush. She halved an avocado, removed the pit, scooped out the flesh, careful not to damage the skin. Chef Gary approached just as she was mixing up the filling.
Everything okay?
She nodded, but didn't look up. She was too busy to chat.
What are you mixing up?
Caroline sighed and put down her spoon.
Avocado, feta cheese, onions, and pepper. And if I don't get this into those,
she pointed to 2 empty avocado shells,
I'm going to be in trouble.
Chef Gary nodded.
Don't worry about me. I'm just observing.
Caroline filled the first shell, piling it high, then set it on a baking tray. It tipped and fell to the side, spilling the filling onto the tray. No! She replaced the filling and set it upright. It tipped again. Chef Gary shook his head.
Some things can't stand alone.
He turned to leave, then added,
I'd think about that.
Caroline repeated his words and then looked back at the tray. Together. That was the opposite of alone. She almost shouted a thank you, but Chef Gary was already gone. She quickly added filling to another shell and then balanced the 2 shells together. Seconds later, the tray was in the oven. Caroline.
The judges want us to succeed. I don't think getting help is cheating. They help everyone. It's not like Chef Gary told me exactly what to do. He just nudged me to think of my problem in a different way. I came up with the answer.
Chapter 4. Caroline and Ray started the last 15 minutes with the same worry. Time. Caroline set the temperature to 375 degrees, hoping a hotter oven would compensate for less time. Ray set the ears on a plate. The grilling had taken a lot longer than she'd planned. She was way behind schedule. Chef Gary studied her bare countertop.
What's going on here?
Buttered corn. First, I'm slicing the kernels off the cob. The butter is mixed with smoked paprika, salt, and pepper, so the flavors meld. Then I'll toss the kernels in the butter mixture. I know, there's a lot to do, but I do have a plan. Ray counted off on her fingers. Toast, avocados, and plating. She grabbed a loaf of seeded bread and cut off 2 fat slices. See?
Absolutely, agreed Chef Gary. Go to it. 5 minutes. Ray opened her oven door and flipped the bread. 2 minutes under the broiler and it'd be done. Caroline opened her oven door and then closed it again. 2 minutes of cooking and then time to plate. Ray spread the avocado mash onto the freshly toasted bread, added 2 spoonfuls of the buttered corn, then sprinkled on queso fresco and chopped cilantro. A pinch of smoked paprika added a final dash of color. At the last minute, she added a wedge of lime. Caroline placed her half avocado in the center of a plate, held her breath, and then slowly let go. It was balancing, but only barely. She drizzled a zigzag pattern of sriracha mayonnaise on top and added a sprinkling of breadcrumbs. The final decoration was a sprig of cilantro. Time! Caroline and Ray stepped back from their workstations, hands in the air. Gut! The cameras were off. Caroline studied her plate. Was the avocado starting to tip to the side, or was that just her imagination? Caroline and Ray stood next to each other, off to the side, while the cameras moved in to film their plates.
Nice presentation,
whispered Ray, and then suddenly her smile faded. Caroline spun around. What? What had she seen? No. A slow moan escaped her lips. Caroline's avocado was lying on its side, and the filling had spilled everywhere. The plate, the table, and even the floor. It was a disaster. Chef Nancy rushed over to the plate, motioned for Steve, and called to the judges. Ray watched the group talking and gesturing. She leaned toward Caroline.
I'm so sorry.
Caroline stared at the ground, rhythmically repeating the same 3 words over and over.
Do not cry, do not cry, do not cry.
Suddenly, she was looking at a pair of feet. Chef Nancy touched her shoulder. Don't worry, we're going to work this out. It was Mark, the cameraman. He accidentally nudged your plate. Caroline looked up.
He did?
Yes, so we're going to give you time to fix it, to restore it to how it was before. I noticed you baked another avocado. You may use that one instead. The judges have agreed that it would be fair. She gently nudged Caroline forward. Come on, you can work on it now. 5 minutes later, a new avocado was on a new plate, looking exactly like the original. Mark, the camera person, rushed over to take some close-ups. He stopped 2 feet before the table, then stepped forward cautiously. Caroline, I'm very sorry about what happened. I'll be careful, I promise. Caroline nodded, but stayed silent. She definitely didn't say what she was thinking.
Thank you, Mark. I'm glad you bumped into it. This second avocado is a lot more stable. That first avocado was probably going to fall anyway. When Mark was done, Caroline and Ray moved back to their workstations and the judges returned to the front of the room. Chef Gary stepped forward. Before we continue, I want to make sure that you're both okay with what just happened. I know the extra weight means that we will not be trying your dishes in the best of circumstances. Things might have gotten soggy and cold when you intended them to be crispy and hot. This will all be taken into account. You will not lose points for anything related to the delay. Are you okay with that? Caroline looked at Ray. Ray nodded. Yes, Chef.
Ray.
What was I supposed to say? Is it unfair? Maybe. Caroline's avocado was going to fall over. I could tell. It was leaning. All the cameraman did was make it happen sooner than later. So she got a lucky break. Good for her, but I don't have to be happy about it.
Chapter 5. Ray tried to shrug off the disappointment, but it wasn't easy. Caroline's plating was better than hers.
What was going to happen now? Did she even have a chance? Steve waved his arm.
Rolling.
Chef Gary looked into the camera.
We gave our two young chefs a surprise start. This was not an easy challenge, but they stepped up and delivered. Well done.
Chef Porter's gaze settled on Caroline.
Caroline, will you please bring your plate to the table?
Caroline slowly walked forward. One avocado disaster was enough, and if it happened again, she wouldn't get another redo. She carefully set the plate down, relieved. Chef Porter was instantly impressed.
Lovely! What a creative presentation. Caroline, what have you made us?
I made a stuffed avocado with a spicy sriracha mayonnaise.
Should we try it? Chef Amy held up 3 forks.
Nice crunch with the breadcrumbs.
Not too spicy on the sauce, just the right amount of bite.
The avocado pairs nicely with the feta, and you managed the salt perfectly. Not everyone remembers that feta is a salty cheese.
Suddenly, Chef Porter was wearing her pickle face, the expression that looked like she'd just bitten into a very sour pickle. Caroline shuddered. This was bad. The frown deepened. Something's missing. Something important. Chef Porter paused. Cilantro! Where's the cilantro? Chef Amy pointed to the decorative sprig that had been pushed to the side of the plate. Chef Gary shook his head.
I see it, but I'm not tasting it.
Chef Porter poked at the sprig. Well, we might as well move on. Chef Amy called Ray to the table. Caroline turned to leave, but Chef Porter stopped her. Caroline, you may stay at the front, but please move over to the side. Ray set her dish down. The mood around the table had changed. 5 minutes ago, she'd been excited, but now she was nervous. Chef Porter smiled.
Ray, what have you made us?
I made elote avocado toast with spicy relish.
Dig in.
Chef Gary scooped up a bite.
Ah, cilantro. There it is.
Chef Porter agreed.
Yes, and I'm especially happy to see the grilled corn. I wasn't sure if anyone was going to pick that out. Very clever.
Ray relaxed, and the judges continued. The crunch of the toast and the smoothness of the avocado is a nice contrast.
It's nicely spicy. It could be too much, but the queso fresco mellows it out.
Chef Gary squeezed some lime on his second bite.
That's the tang I was looking for. Well done, Ray.
He turned to the other judges.
Shall we confer to
the ingredient lists? Interrupted Chef Porter. Please hand them in. Chef Gary read off the list of ingredients in the soup.
Avocados, corn, garlic, onion, serrano chili, lime juice, crema, cilantro, olive oil, water, crouton, and salt.
He waved the ingredient lists from the junior chefs.
We'll see how many of these you covered.
Ray waited until Chef Gary was at the back of the room with the other chefs. She leaned closer to Caroline and nudged her arm. Caroline didn't respond. Ray couldn't blame her. Disappointing Chef Porter never felt good. Minutes later, the judges were back, and Chef Gary was talking.
This was not an easy challenge. We surprised you and tested you in a new and unfamiliar way. Caroline, your dish was original and exceptionally creative, but you were missing one of the main ingredients of the soup. Quite frankly, that was a surprise and a disappointment. A garnish is not a valid representation of an essential flavor.
Caroline lowered her head, wishing the floor would swallow her up, but this was a cooking show. The only magic that happened here was with food. Chef Porter waved a piece of paper.
I have the tally. One young chef incorporated 8 of my ingredients, the other had 5.
Chef Gary continued.
Plus, the texture and combination of flavors in the winning dish was spot on. Congratulations, Ray. You are the winner of this challenge. Please come to the front. We all enjoyed your avocado toast. I could see serving something like this with an egg on it for breakfast. In fact, I might even try it this weekend."
Ray walked forward to stand with the judges. At first, it was exciting, the clapping and the accolades, but then something happened. Seeing Caroline across the table, alone with her head down, took all the fun away. And there was a new realization. This wasn't just going to be hard on the loser. It was going to be hard on their friendship, too. Caroline.
This is not the way I wanted to start the week, but I'm not discouraged. I had a huge disadvantage in this challenge, but I did okay. I may have missed the cilantro, but the judges loved my presentation, and that's a win, because Ray is a tough competitor when it comes to plating. If not for the cilantro, and that's not my fault, I would have won.
Chapter 6. Caroline and Ray were back at Porter Lodge on Chef Porter's farm, surrounded by acres of forest. They sprawled out on the big soft armchairs in the main room. Ray leaned back against the pillows.
I don't know why I'm so tired. We've been doing this for 2 weeks, and now after only one challenge, I'm exhausted.
Caroline stretched her arms.
Me too. Do you think it was the surprise of it? You know, because we weren't expecting a challenge. Maybe.
Ray closed her eyes.
I bet that's how the whole week will be. Surprise after surprise. We'll have to expect the unexpected.
Caroline threw a pillow to the floor.
Ugh, I don't even want to think about it. Let's talk about something else.
They were silent for a moment, and then Caroline sat up.
Hey, you didn't get to go to the gadget wall.
Nearly every day for the past 2 weeks of competition, the junior chefs had been adding fun cooking gadgets to their personal toolboxes every time they won a challenge. Spinners, slicers, strainers, mezzalunas, spiralizers, citrus presses. Anything a junior chef could want in her dream kitchen. But today, there'd been no gadget wall. Now Ray sat up too.
You're right. I wonder why. Is it still there? Did you see it?
Caroline chewed on her finger.
I don't know. I didn't notice.
Chef Nancy stood in the doorway of the main room. How is everyone doing? I know that was a big surprise today, but you both handled it well. Ray eyed the papers in Chef Nancy's hand. Was that the schedule for the week? Chef Nancy sat down across from Ray and Caroline and glanced at the papers. The only thing left for today is an interview with Steve, the producer, and then tomorrow we have a morning field trip. We'll leave right at 8. Caroline put her hand out for a schedule, but Chef Nancy pulled them close. I'll hang on to these until after the field trip. We'll go over everything tomorrow.
Where are we going?
Ray offered a half smile, but she already knew the answer. Chef Nancy looked apologetic. I'm sorry. I can't tell you.
More surprises.
Caroline swung her hand into the air.
Every day will be an adventure.
Chef Nancy stood up. That's the spirit. If you're open to anything, you'll be ready for everything. Caroline nodded. Words of wisdom from Chef Nancy felt good, even if you didn't really believe them. Ray waited until Chef Nancy was out of the room.
What was that? Now I'm even more confused. Surprise start, no schedule, and no gadget wall? That's all different. What's going on?
Caroline shrugged. Could a shrug be a lie? No, not if it was only a feeling. Something about tomorrow's field trip was going to be a big surprise. Ray.
I'm excited about this week because both Caroline and I are serious competitors. We don't play games. This will be about cooking only, and when we're not in the kitchen, we're friends. I trust her and she trusts me. It's not easy to battle against a friend, but we can do it and still have fun.
Caroline.
I'm excited about this week because Ray and I understand each other. We know the other's strengths and weaknesses. That makes this an even match. We'll each do our best, and the best chef will win.
Saturday. Chapter 7. Chef Nancy rushed through the room, but stopped when she saw Caroline and Ray at the breakfast table. Good morning, junior chefs. Big day today. She pointed.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?